On my wedding day, because my groom's childhood arrived late, he announced the wedding ceremony would be postponed. The auspicious hour had already come and gone when Skylar suddenly appeared. The rims of her eyes were red as she confronted him. Sebastian, if she didn't exist, would the one standing beside you today be me? He didn't answer with words. Instead, he pinched our wedding band and slid it onto her finger. The answer went without saying. The hall exploded into chaos in an instant, and the guests turned to me with voyeuristic glee. I ripped the bridal corsage from my gown, snatched the microphone from the officiant, and declared, "The ring's already on, calling it off would be downright rude. Come on, everyone, let's hear some applause." May the happy couple be blessed with babies soon and non-stop positive pregnancy tests. I'd been in love with Sebastian for 3 years, and today was supposed to be the day it all became official. The guest list was a who's who of Riverdale, but I glanced down at my watch. The auspicious hour was almost here, yet the groom was nowhere in sight. Only from his best buddy did I finally learn. Early that morning, Sebastian had fought with his childhood, Skylar, and she'd decided to boycott our wedding ceremony. Sebastian had lashed out. "If Skylar isn't coming, I'm not getting married. Go tell Brittany the wedding is postponed." The words had barely left his mouth when the door swung open. He stood there in a perfectly tailored tux that should have radiated premarital joy. Instead, his long fingers clutched a phone with a cracked screen, his face storm dark. Best stepped between us, sullen and impatient. "You heard him, postponed." Haley, standing beside me, heard it too, and she refused to swallow the insult. Throw a tantrum much? Miss the auspicious hour and the whole day turns unlucky. Sebastian's sneer was ice cold. "Unlucky is fine by me. If you can't wait, feel free to cancel." By then I could hear whispers behind me. At some point a semicircle of onlookers had formed. Their eyes offered sympathy, pity, but mostly contempt and ridicule. They stretched their ears longer than rabbits, staring unblinkingly, waiting to see how I'd handle the fiasco. My gaze swept the venue. Every detail had been arranged to Sebastian's taste. Some of the decorations I'd even assembled with my own hands. I looked down at the sheer strips of transparent band-aiding across the knuckles, and in that instant I simply let go. There was no bitterness, only the hollow realization that none of it mattered anymore. I turned to leave, but Haley blocked my path. She snapped on my behalf, "Sebastian, don't think I don't know exactly what's been going on between you and Miss Shaw. I'm calling that homewrecker right now. Let's hear what she has to say for herself." Sebastian shot to his feet, eyes bloodshot, and enunciated every syllable. "I'm telling you people one more time, she is only my friend. Don't insult her, okay?" I understood. That line had become as regular as clockwork in our lives. I tugged Haley toward the exit. Haley, blunt as ever, was so furious she almost blew up on the spot. But for my sake she exhaled a reluctant sigh instead. Because I stayed silent while onlookers pointed fingers, Sebastian assumed I was weaponizing public opinion. "Brittany, today I finally see, you're as small-minded as any jealous shrew." I couldn't be bothered. "Suit yourself, marry me or don't." Just then the lights dimmed, a lone spotlight swept the stage, and since no bride or groom appeared, the uninformed crowd buzzed. The auspicious hour had passed. I was about to walk up and announce the cancellation when the doors burst open and a woman in a white gown stepped inside. It was Skylar, my husband-to-be's childhood friend, finally showing up. As though pulled by magnetism, Sebastian stared at her. They locked eyes across the distance, a silent, soulful conversation passing between them. Skylar, rims red, confronted him. "If you weren't in the picture, would I be the one beside you today?" Sebastian hesitated for a beat, flicked an unreadable glance at me, then shifted his gaze back to Skylar. He snatched our wedding band from the bridesmaid's tray, and under the full glare of the spotlight he walked toward his childhood friend. In utter silence he slid the ring, meant for my finger, onto Skylar's left hand. The answer went without saying. The hall erupted, guests swiveled toward me with smug, amused eyes. I yanked the bridal corsage free, seized the MC's microphone, and proclaimed, "Rings on, might as well make it official. Let's have a big hand, everybody. May true love win the day and may they grow old together." I meant every congratulatory word, yet the crowd read it as acid mockery. Sebastian glared, "It's just a ring, why so petty? And why rip off the corsage? You don't want to marry me now?" He asked it with perfect entitlement, and for a second I actually wondered if I'd done something wrong. When I stayed quiet he gave a cold snort. "Skylar saved me when we were kids. The fact she came is your honor. Who gave you the right to sneer at her and trash us? Brittany, you can't use your family's money and clout to smear a bond as pure as ours." He sounded utterly righteous while Skylar rested a protective hand on him, subtly lifting her chin so the new band flashed. Relax, I'll give the ring back right now. My wedding band, placed on another woman's hand by my own groom. I surveyed the sea of guests. Some snickered behind cupped palms, one even whistled that a throuple might be fun. Old me would have lunged forward, demanding answers. Whenever Skylar and I clashed, Sebastian never asked questions, he shielded her first. He'd accuse me of manufactured jealousy and drama. He'd storm off in the middle of the night and crash at her place to freeze me out. He told his buddies I was a spoiled heiress throwing tantrums. Eventually he'd make me gift-wrap designer goods as an apology before he'd come home. He even forced me to write a repentance letter promising never to be jealous of Skylar again. In time I became the docile love brain who hung on his every word, but now, watching Sebastian glow with triumph, I realized every sacrifice had been a waste. I spoke with flawless poise, so polished that even Sebastian looked startled. No need. Enjoy yourselves. Just don't forget to wire the cost of this reception banquet to my account. I'm the long-lost heiress of the Vance dynasty. Before the Vance family reclaimed me, I'd been dirt poor. The housekeeper had switched me with her own daughter so the child she loved could attend the best schools. Later, conscience-stricken, she dumped me at a county orphanage. I clawed my way into Hawthorne University on merit. No money? I filed for every student loan on offer. I scheduled classes at dawn, tutored at dusk, and on weekends handed out flyers on Pearl Street, $30 a day, and you weren't allowed back on campus until every last leaflet was gone. I remember how bitterly cold that day was. No gloves, no cash for them. I stood on the curb with one final flyer I couldn't unload. I hadn't eaten, the scent of roasted sweet potatoes drifted past and my stomach held. A good-looking guy with an easy smile tapped my shoulder and offered me a steaming sweet potato. Eat up. I even bought an extra boba tea. He balanced 2 sweet potatoes and 2 cups of wintermelon milk tea, beaming. It's freezing. Why are you still out here hustling? Short on cash? Words failed me. I nodded, mouth full of sweet potato. Cool, then I'll take the last flyer so you can head back to school. He plucked the paper from my fingers, folded it neatly, and tucked it into his backpack. I ran into him several more times after that. He'd be loitering in the quad, scanning the crowd as if waiting for someone. When he spotted me he'd wave like we were old friends. At the campus English contest we met again. Some classmates mocked my accent, calling it Chinglish. Sebastian stepped in, loud and proud. She never had the advantages you did, he shot back. If she'd grown up with money and a year abroad, she'd outshine every one of you. He gave me a little silver radio so I could listen and practice. One Valentine's Day I saw him trudging along, looking crushed. I screwed up my courage and handed him a single red rose. He laughed through tears, hugged me fiercely, and whispered thank you over and over. Snowflower drifted from the outdoor speakers. Carried away, I kissed his forehead. Eventually we were official. Nobody thought we'd last, but I knew, down to my bones, that I loved him. Still, a quiet shame gnawed at me. There was always someone else living in his heart. So I vowed to become someone better, someone worthy. By graduation the Vance family had found me, but by then Sebastian's phone kept lighting up with one particular name. The girl had changed her mind. I accepted my birthright, the fortune, the name, the keys to every luxury he'd ever coveted, designer goods, the penthouse loft, the garage full of sports cars, trying to repay every kindness. Yet the more I gave, the less he showed. Dinner would be interrupted, a single call and he'd sprint out the door. I still honored what we'd once been, but he was already deep in a new romance. No, not new. An old flame, resurrected. Haley tracked me down, stunned. You'll really just walk away? I bummed a cigarette from her. The first drag scorched my throat, but the ember looked like scattered starlight. If the light that once brightened my gray world had gone out, there was nothing left to cling to. Brittany, what are you doing back there? This is our wedding. Sebastian waved me over, wedding band already glittering on his palm, yet his other hand held Skylar's and wouldn't let go. Anyone could see whose happiness he guarded. I swept my gaze across the ballroom and answered, cool and flat. I already wished the happy couple a long and perfect life. Was I unclear, or are your ears? Sebastian hadn't expected that hauteur. Panic flickered in his eyes, but he kept his voice level. Brittany, stop throwing a tantrum. So you've got money, big deal. A sneer pulled up my lips. If money could buy everything, why had his heart wandered? I considered, then shrugged. Think what you like. Can't stop you. Fury cracked his composure. He glanced at the sea of Riverdale elites, suddenly aware of the cameras, and a trace of regret shadowed his face. I expected him to storm off, same as always. Instead he tried again, almost pleading. Britt, that whole scene, we rehearsed it. You said you wanted to give the guests a surprise. Don't you remember? A laugh spilled out of me. Beside him Skylar fluttered her white gown, twirling the ring, smugness dripping. Exactly, Vance. We rehearsed it. Getting cold feet now? If I weren't the one wearing the jilted crown, I'd hand them both an Oscar. The nerve to spout such shameless fiction, bravo. Whispers rippled through the crowd, some guests were already buying the script. I let out another icy laugh. Of course not. You all know Sebastian is the love of my life, every thread he wears, every bite he eats is the finest money can buy, except for one tiny thing. I paused, letting the silence stretch. Sebastian's eyes widened, he dropped Skylar's hand as if it burned. I curved my lips and delivered the line that sent him stumbling backward. Except the woman he's marrying today isn't me, and still, I couldn't be happier for him. Right on cue, Banquet rolled in the 5-tier cake through the service corridor. He set the knife and server before Skylar with professional courtesy. Time for the cake cutting, bride and groom. Hotel staff only see what the seating chart tells them. Naturally he mistook her for me. I hooked my arm through Haley's and pivoted toward the exit. Sebastian's voice lashed out, halting me. I turned. He'd already shoved Skylar aside and strode over, desperation raw in his face. Sweetheart, this is our wedding, don't you dare leave. Come cut the cake with me. He dragged me under the spotlights, clasped my hands, and sliced the first piece together. The second the wedge was free he dropped my fingers, grabbed the plate, and hurried over to feed Skylar. Skylar opened her mouth like it was the most natural thing in the world, dabbed a dot of cream on Sebastian's nose, and, with a doting smile, flicked a glance my way. Sebastian flushed scarlet and mumbled something under his breath. Skylar leaned down and asked him soulfully, "You're about to become someone else's groom, can I have one last hug?" It turned my stomach. I no longer loved him, but to watch the spectacle unfold in front of me at my own wedding, absolutely nauseating. I remembered that this morning Sebastian had delayed the ceremony because he'd been fighting with Skylar. Clearly she'd come prepared, and clearly he was delighted. Before he could answer, a shriek rang out from the floor. When Sebastian spun around again, his expression was a living emoji reel. "Brittany, you actually kissed a waiter." Damn right. I rose on my toes and planted one on the tall, handsome Banquet. He's an old classmate, a kiss before I marry is no crime, is it? I stepped off the dais, found a table, and sat. Banquet really was an old classmate, my middle school classmate, no less. The reason I hadn't recognized him at first was that he'd done the full caterpillar to butterfly upgrade and was 10 times better looking. Brittany, are you trying to embarrass me on purpose? Sebastian barely kept his rage in check, pointing at us while grinding his teeth. You're jealous that I have female friends. You want me to be your slave? I felt like asking which female friend sticks to him 24/7, and which one begs for an embrace in the middle of the wedding. If they've lost all sense of shame, I, Brittany, still know what decency means. Your friend is still waiting for that hug, don't keep her. What if she panics and runs? Sebastian decided I was playing distraction games. Brittany, you're a jealousy factory. Even at our wedding you won't behave, you have to fight me. Was it still not obvious how I felt? I picked up my chopsticks and sampled the next course. Sebastian, go hug your bride. Don't worry about me, I'm already eating the banquet. My biological parents weren't here, their guilt over my origins made them stay away. But that didn't mean I'd let anyone walk over me. Sebastian, Brittany, you've changed. You never used to be like this. My crab-crunching jaw paused. The past? He wanted to lecture me about the past? My eyes went cold. He thought he'd touched a nerve and cooed. Sweetheart, today is supposed to be our happiest day. Look around, every guest is rooting for us. I set the crab down, wiped my mouth, and rose. You're right, sorry, everyone. I bowed to the room. Wedding's off. Enjoy the meal. The secretary will refund the gifts in cash afterward. The cash gifts totaled tens of millions. When Sebastian heard the sum, his panic meter redlined. Still, he refused to fold. If I mean nothing to you, don't come crying later. With that he yanked Skylar toward the exit. Guests pointed and whispered every step they took. As the doors swung open, I called after them, "Don't forget to return my haute couture suit and the wedding band, several million and you can't afford the damage." The crowd snickered as the doors slammed. I scrolled through my phone and saw Sebastian's fresh post, "Married today, swapped brides." The photo showed him sprawled on the marital bed, face buried in some woman's chest. Without hesitation I double-tapped, then immediately blocked every handle he owned. I told my assistant to clean up the mess, lawyer up, list the penthouse loft, the works. Back at the office the secretary said someone insisted on seeing me. The hesitation on her face told me it was Sebastian. In the old days, if he'd shown up after a fight, I'd have felt heaven blessed, handed him my black card, groveled, and promised never to lash out again. Now I only sighed. Without my say-so the secretary wouldn't let him past the reception. I worked straight through the morning until she rang at lunch and asked what I wanted to order, adding carefully, "Mr. Sterling says he made your favorite sweet and sour fish." The box opened to reveal perfectly plated sweet and sour fish, glistening and appetizing, nothing like his usual zero-cook skills. Through the glass I saw Sebastian, eyes bloodshot, watching me. He wanted a reset. I never lifted a chopstick. Instead I told the secretary to book me a private dining room. When I stepped out Sebastian rushed over and clutched my sleeve. I didn't sleep with her. The executive corridor fell pin-drop silent. I dismissed the staff, turned back, and told him, "I don't care anymore. Contact my lawyer if you need anything." Not announcing the divorce in public was the last courtesy I planned to give. Still he persisted, "Britt, I know you're furious, but you provoked it, you lashed out first." I paused mid-stride. I'd given him enough face, clearly he had no shame left. I let out a cold laugh, "So?" He bit his lip, lowered his head, "So I forgive you. Let the past stay past. Let's start fresh." I closed my eyes, a headache pounded. Who says he can reset the game just like that? I stayed silent. He raised his voice, still sulking. "You're so petty, nothing like Skylar. She even asked how you were doing yesterday." I was speechless. His idea of concern was showing up late to humiliate me, wearing my ring on her finger, hugging my groom on stage, and comforting my husband in the bed I bought. My chest hurt so badly I could barely breathe. "Say whatever you want. I have things to do, don't block my way." I had never spoken to him in that tone before, and this time Sebastian was truly furious. "Brittany, I came all the way here for you. By now the entire company knows I apologized. I've given you every bit of face you could want. What more do you want from me?" He asked what more I wanted. Once, I'd wanted to grow old with him, but now, seeing him arrive like an avenging judge, I realized he wasn't here to apologize, he was here to force me to surrender. "I've already made myself clear," I said calmly, turning away. "I want a divorce." Sebastian refused to give up. The moment he heard the word divorce it was as if something inside him snapped. He raised his hand to strike me. The security guard who'd rushed over caught his arm mid-swing. "Brittany, you'll regret this." How laughable. Who was begging whom these days? He still hadn't figured out his place. After that night, Sebastian never came looking for me again. I enjoyed the peace. When my parents heard I wanted a divorce, they backed me up, saying I'd married too young. Women shouldn't spend their lives obsessing over romance. Grab the family business while you're young, money in your own hands is what matters. My father personally opened doors for me, connecting me to a huge project. I threw myself into it, often staying at the office until well past midnight. Once the deal wrapped, I asked my assistant to book me a ticket abroad so I could finally exhale, and to check on the divorce paperwork. She told me Sebastian had blocked every number and social handle, and changed the locks on the penthouse loft. "Vance, look at this." She handed me a tablet open to his social feed. He was spinning our story, how he'd valiantly defended his right to stay friends with Skylar and been cruelly abandoned by a spoiled heiress. He painted himself as a tragic romantic, and the internet ate it up. He started going live to sell products and raked in cash. He pinned our wedding photo at the top of his album, followed by a fresh selfie with Skylar. He wanted the fish and the bear's paw both. Skylar played along perfectly, marketing a decade-long tale of silent devotion to her white moon childhood love, soaking teenage hearts everywhere. Their storytelling could put professional screenwriters out of work. I almost applauded. Once, the slightest overstep would have sent me into a rage to tear them apart. Now, I saw a perfect opportunity. Free material, right there. I saved every cozy photo and forwarded them to my attorney to file for divorce. The instant I hit send, I braced for heartache. What woman wants her wounds displayed in public? But standing on the balcony, letting the breeze brush my face, I felt light. I simply didn't care anymore. My lawyer worked fast. Soon a video call came through. Sebastian snatched the phone and glared. "Brittany, haven't you embarrassed me enough? If you want me back, come yourself, why hide behind a lawyer? What does he know about love?" A softer voice cooed beside him, "Don't be mad. She's a CEO now, she can't exactly grovel, can she?" I almost laughed out loud. So Skylar was living in my penthouse too. I had nothing left to say and reached to end the call. Sebastian caught the look on my face and softened his tone. "Britt, all these years, all we've shared, can it really vanish overnight?" On screen, Skylar's hand rested possessively on his broad shoulder. "You said I was your salvation. Are you really going to abandon me?" He was playing the history card, certain I could never walk away from the girl I'd once been. His confidence came from believing I still loved him. "Sebastian, you have 3 days to move out of my house. After that, I call the police." I hung up. My assistant walked in with a courier envelope addressed to me. Inside lay the dried rose I'd given him 6 years ago, the Valentine's gift I'd preserved so our love would never wilt. He'd returned it as a reminder. Back then I must have adored him. I'd eaten steamed buns with chili paste for a week so I could spend $100 making that eternal bloom, hoping he'd think of me each time he saw it. Love rooted so deep in dust can only bear bitter fruit. I texted my lawyer. If he signs the papers, he keeps every designer good, every car, every dollar I ever gave him, except real estate. Sebastian couldn't believe it. I was willing to pay a fortune just to be rid of him, and that only proved how much more he could have had by staying. He stood in the rain outside the Vance estate, looking as lost as he had on that long ago Valentine's. "Brittany, I really do love you." When I didn't answer, he tilted his pale face up to my window. "I know you need to save face, so this time I'm the one who'll grovel. Aren't you supposed to race downstairs, throw open the gate, fling your arms around me and swear we'll be okay?" His voice sounded fragile beneath the drumming rain. From the second-floor glass, I stared down at the man who was once my world, my feelings a tangled knot. There was a time every word, every glance of his could make my heart flutter. Now those same words felt like echoes from another life, stirring nothing inside me. Once, I would have done exactly that. When the white moonlight comes to coax you, you run. I'd have gaslit myself. He'd done nothing unforgivable, only what any man might. The fault lay with Skylar. Sebastian was innocent, she was just a bro. But I saw with brutal clarity how pathetic I'd been, because he had ground my heart under his heel and done as he pleased. "Brittany, I know I hurt you. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I can change." There was a pleading note in his voice now, as though he were clutching at the last scrap of hope. The umbrella lay at my feet. I lifted my eyes with deliberate indifference. "We're not going to be okay again." Sebastian blinked those wide eyes, as if the sentence hadn't computed. "What are you talking about? What do you mean, not going to be okay? Is there some other guy?" "There isn't." He refused to believe it. "I never doubted your love for me, so why is this happening?" I drew a slow breath and looked straight at him, into the same eyes that once made my heart cartwheel, yet now they reflected nothing of me. "Sebastian, when I say we're not going to be okay, I mean the trust and respect between us has shattered completely. It's not because of anyone else, it's because the way you treat me makes me feel a chill I've never felt before. Maybe you think they're just little things, but to me every dismissal, every slight, tramples the heart I gave you." A flicker of fear crossed Sebastian's face, the gravity of it seemed finally to sink in, and the rims of his eyes reddened. Sometimes I'm just in a bad mood and I take it out on you. I never meant to hurt you." I asked the housekeeper to hand him the umbrella. He took it, stunned. Raising his head, tears blurred his vision. When the reality of it hit, he broke down sobbing. "Brittany, I really didn't mean to." Whether he meant it or not no longer mattered. I turned away and didn't pause for his rain-muffled cries. The moment I shut the window, my world dropped to a hush. My phone erupted, a barrage of texts thundered across the screen. Every line was an apology, and then the memories of every sweet moment we'd ever had. I didn't answer a single one. After a while Richard knocked and said Sebastian had passed out. Richard sighed, trying to broker peace. "Can't you just let it go? You've been together so many years." I shook my head, called Skylar first, then dialed 911 for an ambulance. As the doors slammed shut, I stared at Sebastian without a shred of feeling. Later I heard Skylar never showed. He woke up alone at Riverdale. Haley, my best friend, was on staff there. She told me he refused food until he was skin and bones, begging for one glimpse of me. What would be the point? I didn't go. Still, Sebastian swiped Haley's phone and FaceTimed me. This time I finally get it, you're the only one who ever truly loved me. Can I have one more chance? On the screen he looked gaunt, his eyes swimming with contrition, a stranger to the arrogance he once wore like cologne. My heart gave an unexpected flutter, but logic shackled it at once. I cut him off, not accusing, just exhausted. Sebastian, I gave you chances beyond counting. I'm worn out. Being with you is exhausting. The three of us in this love story was one too many. Certain of my devotion, he acted untouchable, while I ended up the pitiful sideshow. I hung up, grabbed my coat, and headed for the airport. Alone, I flew to Iceland to watch the aurora borealis, to the Maldives to scuba dive, to New Zealand for a week-long trek, and finally home to Tibet. There I observed a sky burial run by the Buddhist college. Back at the lodge I threw up everything I'd eaten, and suddenly understood. Nothing in life outweighs life and death itself. Then my lawyer messaged, Sebastian has agreed to sign. I flew back to Richard and Eleanor City. On the day we collected our divorce certificate I almost offered comfort, then realized I had no standing left to give it. Skylar didn't come for him. I climbed into my Porsche Panamera and sped away. Afterward I left the country for graduate school. 3 years later I returned. Haley threw me a welcome back party and casually mentioned Sebastian. Since the divorce your ex's personality has done a complete 180. I merely nodded. I can see you honestly don't care. Anyway, that's Skylar, she's secretly kept by some old tycoon. When the guy found out about your ex, he beat Sebastian into the hospital. Oh, I said, swirling my wine. Haley sighed. He's crippled now, will never have kids. Being a doctor, Haley carries a parent's heart for every patient. She knew every rotten thing Sebastian had done, yet she could still feel pity for him. I'm grateful to have a friend who stays anchored to her conscience. Let it go, it's all ancient history. Tell me about you. I heard you launched a company overseas that's on fire, and now you're about to acquire your old man's empire. He's panicking. I laughed. Not an acquisition, a win-win partnership. All these years have rolled by, and my life moves steadily forward. Career thriving, self under constant construction. I thank the woman I was for walking away. Time is the best medicine. It taught me to let go and showed me what real love should look like. Maybe one day, when we've both become better versions of ourselves and can meet with maturity and clarity, the wounds and regrets of the past will finally fade. But until then, I keep walking. On this journey I'm searching for my own happiness and peace. You have to look ahead and bid farewell to anyone who drains your spirit. Thanks for listening to today's story. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? If you liked this video, give it a double tap and share it with friends. We can't wait to read your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more unforgettable tales. See you next time.